Hey, the meeting is now live streaming. You can start whenever you and Ashley are ready.
Thank you. Ashley, you ready?
Yes, we're ready. We have a quorum.
All right. I'd like to, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Health and Human Services and Aging Committee to order, 1 o'clock, Wednesday, June 2nd. Can we have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Carding the roll, Ms. Conwell,
Present.
Mr. Sweeney,
Present.
Ms. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Present.
Ms. Stevens. Ms. Stevens is absent at the moment. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed in for public comment today?
No, Madam Chair, no one submitted any public comment.
All right. We have the approval of the minutes before us from the May 19th, 2021 meeting. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I so move. Miller.
Second, Brown.
Moved by Miller, seconded by Brown. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. The minutes for the May 19th meeting has been approved. There was no legislation referred to the committee for this go round, but we do have a presentation from the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. And so I'd like to say welcome and turn it over to Director Kristen. And I'm sure there's be some questions that will probably be answered possibly by Brian Dirtle. So welcome, and you have the floor.
Thank
Wonderful. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. We so value our partnership with Cuyahoga County and with all of you, and I'm pleased to be able to share a little bit more with each and every one of you about the year that we've had responding to the pandemic, but also our plans for the future. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully everyone will be able to see this. I also, though, will encourage you all, if you have questions as we go through the presentation, please don't hesitate to ask. I am happy to answer them at any time. Can you all see the presentation?
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Well, I want to start, of course, with a thank you. As I believe you all know, Cuyahoga County has been an important partner in our hunger relief efforts for decades and has supported our work in a number of different ways. Most significantly in the past through more than $1 million a year in support of the Hunger Network of Greater Cleveland, one of our partners, and specifically 32 of their food pantries spread across Cuyahoga County. Those dollars have been very, very important to our work and provided tens of millions of meals to our community over the years. Cuyahoga County, over the course of the past year, has also stepped up to help us respond to the pandemic. We've had need over the course of the past year like we've never seen before. And a silver lining of the pandemic has been the way the community has supported our work and helped us do more. And certainly Cuyahoga County has stepped in there as well. As you all know, we have received more than $500,000 in CARES funding to help purchase food, make that food available specifically to children in need through two efforts. One was through the expansion of our Backpack for Kids program. As many of you know, that's a program that essentially packs, with the help of volunteers, 2 days supply of meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a low-income child into a bag. Traditionally, those go home at the end of the day Friday, so children can have access to those meals over the weekend. In the case of the pandemic, with so many children out of school and in need of free and reduced price breakfasts and lunches, we were distributing those to kids through new partners. And through county funding, you were able to make more than 700,000 meals available to children through that program. In addition, we used county dollars to make a special food purchase in the month of December, we were very concerned about kids, again, struggling with hunger, without access to school meals at the holidays. And so we bought literally truckloads of child-friendly food items that we distributed through our network of partner agencies at no cost. In total, you made almost 1 million meals possible with this contribution. All of that food was purchased food. Over the course of the past year, we have purchased significantly more product than we've ever had to in the past because of the increased need. This year, we'll purchase 3 times what we have purchased historically in our efforts to continue to respond. So those dollars were critical. And of course, your support of the Harvest for Hunger campaign. You all are very familiar with our mission, and I think most, if not all of you, have been to our facility. It's an aspirational mission as we work to make sure that everyone in our community has the nutritious food that they need every day. Certainly, the number of people in our community in need of food has grown this year, and I'll share some data with you. And as you well know, food from the food bank comes in from a variety of sources, including local and national food donors, members of the food industry, the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, food from the state of Ohio, donated food from food drives, and of course, the purchased product that I mentioned previously. And then that product, once sorted or prepared into meals in our kitchen, goes out to our network of partner agencies and ultimately the clients that we all serve. Some of you have been to the Muni Lot to see our drive-through distribution. Thank you to those of you who have been able to make time to help us there. That is one of the many ways that we have worked to respond to the pandemic. As you know, we have more than 1,000 program partners in 6 counties. When the pandemic first hit, about 300 of them had to close their doors. Either they were located in a school facility and the school was closed, or at a senior center that was closed, or they were located at a church or another community organization, in a number of cases, entirely staffed by retired volunteers whose doctors told them to stay home for safety reasons. And so at a time of skyrocketing need, we knew that we were going to need to step in to fill the gap. And so in addition to trying to make sure we had food continuing to flow to our network of partner agencies that were open, we also began doing our drive-through distribution in the Muni Lot on a weekly basis, started drive-throughs in a number of other communities as well, started packing disaster boxes, as we call them, or emergency food boxes, with help from the National Guard. We asked the governor to deploy the National Guard to food banks across the state. And those National Guard soldiers have just been a lifeline to us. Of the 440,000 emergency food boxes we distributed in the first 12 months of COVID, the majority of them went to our partner agencies to make sure that they could continue to respond to demand. Calls to our help center, which some of you are familiar with, where we take calls every day from folks who may be in need of food, went at the very beginning from about 100 calls a day to more than 1,000 calls a day, particularly calls from people who'd never before needed emergency help and had absolutely no idea where to turn. We continued doing SNAP applications, of course, at scale, as well as referring to the county as appropriate. And we also started doing home delivery, which is something that we have not done in the past, frankly, had not seriously considered previously. But we got so many calls from senior citizens and folks with disabilities who were in their homes, terrified to go out, in some cases quarantined, and running out of food, and had no other options, no one to deliver to them. And so we did start a home delivery program that continues to this day. In all, we served more than 400,000 people, unduplicated, unique individuals, and more than a third of them were new. And this is across our 6-county service area, have not needed emergency food support from the food bank or from our network of partner agencies before. We distributed more than 58 million pounds of food, which was up from 47 million pounds the previous year. We have never seen growth anywhere close to that in our history. One of the things that has been key to our distribution, as I mentioned earlier, was this drive-through in the Muni lot. Gave us the opportunity to serve large numbers of people safely with help from the National Guard and also now volunteers. And this chart, if you can see it, shows weekly turnout in the Muni lot by household count. So each bar is a different week. We've been there literally every week. And it's number of households. So the first two drive-through distributions we did at our facility, Councilwoman Stevens was here to witness those and helping alongside us. And we very quickly became overwhelmed by the turnout. We simply didn't have room in our parking lot, or frankly, room in the community, in the neighborhood, to bring all of these cars in safely without creating horrible gridlock. And so after the second distribution here at the facility, we asked the city if we could use the Muni lot instead. And you can see that the numbers peaked in early April. We served more than 3,600 families in one day. That's 10,000 people in one day. And then as additional unemployment and stimulus checks started going out, the numbers started to go down, which was a wonderful thing in our view. Unfortunately, that was short-lived. As extra unemployment ended and those stimulus checks ran out, sure enough, we saw more people turning to us again. We also saw some new people who had had an emergency fund, right? They had saved for a rainy day, but 3 months into the pandemic, their emergency fund had run dry. And so they were turning to us. And we actually had our largest distribution in the month of November, the week before Thanksgiving, because certainly that's a time of year that everybody wants to make sure they have food for their families and the opportunity to share a special meal. And you can see the fluctuation as stimulus checks go out. They have absolutely had an impact. So has extra unemployment. But as of last week, we were still serving more than 2,000 households a week in the Muni lot. It's more than 6,000 people. And that compares to about 1,000 people a month at our distribution we were once doing at the food bank pre-pandemic, and it's weekly. So the need is still there, and I fear the need is going to be there for a while. We are predicting a 3 to 5 year response to the pandemic and planning accordingly. When we look specifically at Cuyahoga County, and we look at our last fiscal year, so this was 6 months of the pandemic, from October of 19 to September of 2020, we provided food assistance to nearly 1 in 4 Cuyahoga County residents. 284,000, again, unique, unduplicated individuals who turned either to the food bank or to one of our partner agencies. That's about 70% of income eligible residents. Income eligibility at the food bank is 200% of poverty or less. So to put that into perspective, about $43,000 a year for a family of 3. Many public benefits, cap out at around 130% of poverty. So sometimes emergency food may be the only assistance that a family or a senior is eligible for. And of the 1,000 program partners, the fact is that the overwhelming majority of the nonprofits we serve are in Cuyahoga County, 875 of them, as a matter of fact. And we've shared just a few of these partners here. They are spread across our county and across our service area. And they really run the gamut from libraries to churches, to community organizations, to child serving organizations, as well, of course, as all of the larger organizations you're familiar with that provide hunger relief, organizations like Salvation Army and Catholic Charities and the Hunger Network of Greater Cleveland. They all receive the majority of the food they distribute from the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. You have seen these maps in the past. This one is a little bit different. We use GIS mapping to look at need and response at more or less the neighborhood level. This particular map shows people served again in our last fiscal year. Now, the client count is based on where the people live, not necessarily where the people went to get food. So as an example, someone who lives in Euclid absolutely may have come to our Muni Lot distribution, which is City of Cleveland, of course, downtown, but they would show up in Euclid in this map in particular. And I will say, this is data that we have in our pantry track system, which all of our food pantry partners, so our food pantries, our senior markets, our produce markets, the volunteers and staff that run those agencies have been trained to use the software and have been using this software for a number of years now. So we now have really good data. But not every program uses it. So when we talk about the number of people served, and when you look at this map, we do have some programs like our children's programs, for example. All of those kids who come and get a free meal at a library in the summertime, for example, or were handed meals off the back of our food truck this past summer in a lower income neighborhood, we're not asking them for their family's income. We're not even asking them for their name and address. So those kids aren't counted here, meaning that the 1 in 4 Cuyahoga County residents I mentioned to you earlier is actually a low number. The number in reality is higher. This is the community. This is a map showing the communities where we serve the most new people, folks who had never essentially before been entered into the pantry track system. That's how we define new, meaning that they haven't needed emergency food help in the last 5 to 7 years. And you can see again, communities that were hit hardest in many cases by the pandemic, but there is need across Cuyahoga County. And this chart shows the number of clients served, again, in the same time period. So this is the first 6 months of the pandemic by county council district. Households served year over year, and then the change in households. And this is total households. It's not new people per se. Somebody could have received food back in 2017, gone back to work, been managing to take care of their family, cover their expenses, and then lost their job again in 2020 because of the pandemic. And so you would see them in the year over year change number here. But first we've got households served, and then we've got individuals served. And so, every single council district has at least 4,000, if not significantly more, clients served by our network in fiscal year 2020. And that's where we get to our plans for the future. Back in 2018, we created a new strategic plan, very thoughtful process, along with our board and staff and some community leaders and partners. We realized at that time that if we continued to increase our distribution each year according to past trends, that at some point we would run out of room at our current facility. And so we began planning for some sort of expansion. At the time, we didn't know what that would look like. Frankly, I assumed that we'd do some sort of addition here at our current facility. But when we started really looking at the data and developing projections for the future based on what we believed that we could distribute with proper space, we realized we just didn't have the footprint here to expand for the long term. We have more than tripled the food we distribute, frankly, counting last year, almost quadrupled the food we distribute annually through the food bank since we moved into this facility 15 years ago. We have quintupled the number of prepared meals that we make in our community kitchen. And we know that more of those prepared meals will be needed in the future. Many of you have heard presentations about the silver tsunami, the growing senior population. The fact is that Meals on Wheels and home delivered meals to seniors, many more of them are going to be needed in the future. And we have partners who have turned to us asking us to provide those meals through our kitchen, and we are simply out of space to do so. We've also very sadly found ourselves in a position where we've had to turn food away because we just don't have room for it. And of course, with the pandemic, the trend line that we'd seen previously, of a million or 2 million more pounds of food a year just went off the charts. And so now we find ourselves in a position where we're leasing offsite storage, leasing semi-trailers for the purpose of storage parked in our back lot. And also, again, occasionally being in the horrible circumstances of having to turn food away because we just don't have room for it. And so our plans are to build a new community food distribution center and then to renovate our existing space here at South Waterloo into a client service center. The new food distribution center will have more room for cold and frozen storage, dry storage as well, a much larger kitchen so we can increase the prepared meals we're making, as well as additional capacity in the form of an expanded fleet. We can't bring more food in and we can't get more food out without additional trucks, for example. Once that facility is done, and we hope to have it open by next summer, we have already broken ground on that facility on a donated piece of property on Coit Road, formerly vacant land. It was vacant for 40 years. Then we will begin renovation of our current location into a client service center. We know that even before the pandemic, there was a gap in service. Many more people who are eligible for food from the food bank than were being served by our network. And one of the groups that we know for certain is being missed is working poor families who can't get to an agency in their neighborhood during the hours which the agency is open because they've got a job. And so we will be building here at South Waterloo a family-friendly, healthy choice food pantry, which will be open not only daytime hours, but also evenings and weekends to accommodate working families and individuals. Picture, when I say a healthy client choice food pantry, picture an oversized 7-Eleven, but no cigarettes and alcohol, full of healthy food, where clients can come in and they can shop for the food that their family needs and make choices based on what their kids enjoy or based on food allergies their family might have. In addition to that healthy choice food pantry, which we believe will serve tens of thousands of clients a year, we also will be inviting in other nonprofits to co-locate and collaborate with us here. We have been doing work for a number of years now that some of you are familiar with. In addition to connecting clients to food at our partners, also helping them apply for public benefits, SNAP and Medicaid being two of the most common, and referring clients to other nonprofit partners who can help them address underlying issues that are contributing to their food insecurity, housing or healthcare or employment being some of the largest. Well, those partners we've been referring to for years, we plan to invite in to share space here. So when a client comes in for food and talks to a member of our outreach team who realizes that, their number one issue is employment, we can literally take them down the hall to introduce them to someone at an employment training agency so they can begin to help addressing that issue. Because ultimately, unless we really put even more effort into addressing poverty at its core, family by family, there will always be this need. And so the new client service center will allow us to do that in a collaborative fashion. We are also working to increase support for our partner agencies to make sure that they have the capacity they need in the form of equipment and other resources to serve their individual neighborhoods well in the future. So I mentioned the new food distribution center will be over on Coit Road. It will be almost 200,000 square feet. We're next door to the Federal Job Corps, who I think will be a wonderful neighbor. And in a community, I think that where we can bring some value onto this formerly vacant land. And I think we're going to learn a lot from the community as well. It's going to be a wonderful location for us. Volunteers will also volunteer right in that neighborhood, which should bring some wonderful new traffic into the community, and help us distribute more food and more healthy food to our partner agencies. You can see here the Federal Job Corps to the right, and you can see behind us is an organization called Collinwood Energy. I don't know how many of you are familiar. They turn food scraps, food waste, into renewable energy and also fertilizer. And we distribute more than 20 million pounds of free fresh produce a year. But the fact is, not all of it is fit for distribution. And we want to make sure, and we've made a lot of progress at this over the years, that we don't send anything out of our facility that's not appropriate, that we are sorting through it and volunteers are helping us glean it here. And that means we have food scraps. And so we literally will have a neighbor in our backyard who can help us do something productive with those food scraps and save dollars over time. We are building a silver level LEED certified facility to be good community stewards, but as importantly, to increase efficiency and reduce costs down the road. Again, once that's done, we will begin renovation and the creation of our client service center here on South Waterloo, this one-stop shop for families in need. In addition to food and some of the other services that I mentioned, which would be provided by other nonprofit partners, we also would absolutely love to have county caseworkers here at this facility so that as there are challenges with a client's SNAP or Medicaid application, they could be addressed on site. Applications could be approved on site. That would be a wonderful partnership opportunity. We also are looking to have a computer lab here so that folks who need help applying for positions online could do that from our computer lab. And frankly, lots of other nonprofits have come to us with additional ideas for collaboration. And the guiding light will be, how can we serve our shared clients better? How can we make their lives easier so they don't have to go from place to place to get services? And ultimately, how can we help them address the underlying issues and help them move out of poverty and out of food insecurity? We believe with the proper space, we can be providing 12 million more meals every year. Now, this won't happen overnight. We will grow to this over time as we recruit new partners and donors, of course. But we know our community needs that. And we believe that is absolutely within our sights based on all of our research. The South Waterloo site alone, we believe we could be serving almost 30,000 additional families a year. And of course, doing this will require more volunteers. In a normal year, we've got about 20,000 volunteers, to put this number into perspective. And it also will, over time, require additional food bank staff members. We are proud to be a North Coast 99 employer and to offer a very minimum wage of $15 an hour on principal, as well as wonderful benefits. And so we will be adding staff over time. The majority, but not all, at the Coit Road facility. In total, costs for the expansion project, which includes construction of Coit Road, outfitting Coit Road with all of the equipment that is needed, including kitchen equipment, additional trucks, which I mentioned earlier, IT needs, et cetera, and then the renovation here, and some programmatic costs. Food costs, for example, for the first 5 years of our on-site pantry. The total cost of the project is $52 million. We are pursuing $40 million in community support, a $40 million capital campaign. And the good news is that we're off to a nice start. We're at more than $14 million in philanthropic gifts so far. But the fact is, we have quite a lot more to go and a very urgent timeline. The need is now. We'd like to get this facility open as soon as possible. And so, over the course of the last year, we have made some wonderful progress, as I said, including recruiting wonderful volunteer leadership from the community. We've broken ground, begun fundraising, and we're moving this project forward just as quickly as possible because the need is so urgent. And we'd love to have the county's help, of course, in this effort. What questions can I answer for you?
One Christian I had, when you talked about partnerships, have you reached out to Job Corps Center? I can envision the students that are there working with you guys. Have you reached out to them already?
We have. We had a wonderful meeting with them. They're very interested in partnership. At a minimum, we are looking at having volunteers from next door. The students come over and volunteer, but we also may be able to develop some sort of working internship program at the food bank, for example.
My thoughts.
Yeah. Those students are graduating, prepared for jobs in the trades. So who knows? There even could be an employment opportunity at the food bank at some point for the right student. No, I think they're going to be a wonderful partner.
Okay.
Thank you.
I like that idea. If you need any more nudging that way, I'm here to help because
Wonderful.
We have great students that graduate every year. It's federally funded.
Yeah.
And, we need to make sure that they have jobs when they graduate.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. We're thrilled that they will be our new neighbor.
My second question would be, how much you spoke earlier about leases? How much does that cost you for extra leases for the space?
Sorry, for our trucks?
Yeah, for your extra space of food that you're.
So if we're talking about leasing those 5 new trucks.
Okay, just the trucks. I thought it was storage for food.
So yes, we're building the new community food distribution center to provide more storage for food.
Okay.
The intent is that, we're leasing offsite storage. I'm sorry, I'm going way back. I want to make sure I understand your question.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember the estimate. It's, I believe, more than $10,000 a year currently, but we also are leasing trucks for storage. And I can double check on that expense. That's an expense that certainly would be eliminated with this new facility.
And you spoke of your timeline that, you're in the capital campaign. When is the timeline for this building to be built?
So we are trying to match our fundraising to our construction schedule. So we'd like to have, it's a 30-month timeline for both facilities to be complete and for all fundraising to be complete. So we'd like to have the fundraising done by the summer of 2023 when we open the renovated South Waterloo facility. The Coit Road facility, we hope to open next summer. And so the Coit Road facility is about 2/3 of the overall expense.
You said next summer for the Coit Road?
Correct. Coit Road, we want open in the summer of 2022. South Waterloo, the Client Service Center, open in the summer of 2023. And the good news is we're on schedule to do that at this point with the Coit Road facility. We had our groundbreaking event in April, and site work has begun. I drove by this morning. They are busy out there.
Okay, thank you. You answered many of my other questions earlier in your presentation. That's why I didn't interrupt. I would like to open up for any other questions to council members.
Madam Chair.
I have one.
Okay, I heard Brown first and then Miller.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you've done first and foremost. But the question that I have, it's no secret that, trucking prices are causing produce and food, everything to go up for the lack of truck drivers. And so just wondering the impact that may have on your ability to service our communities, how you're dealing with that and the impact that it has had or could potentially have, if you could touch.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. I will tell you that we saw the impact of that immediately when the pandemic started. You know, there were empty shelves at supermarkets because of a rush in buying and people stocking up. At that point, there was also a significant drop in food donations to the food bank because there was no surplus in the system. And so we immediately tried to begin buying to fill that gap and to respond to community demand. And I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable. Simply getting deliveries in was an enormous challenge. You know, we had commitments that were made where the trucks just didn't show, orders that were canceled at the last minute, and frankly, skyrocketing prices, things at 2 and 3 times what we had paid just a few months previously. It was quite a challenge. We stuck with it, and thankfully, we're able to find vendors who would work with us, and that has steadied out quite a bit, thankfully. You know, it is not completely resolved, but it's gotten a whole lot better than it was last March, April, May, and June. And we are grateful for that. So, you know, we look constantly at food prices and bid things out nationally to pay the lowest price when we buy by the semi-load. And while prices are up a little bit, it's nothing like we saw a year ago. And so, you know, we will simply continue to keep our eyes wide open. We also have the opportunity to sometimes bring in national food donations through our partner Feeding America. That's wonderful. Sometimes all we have to do is pay for the shipping. Again, you know, the shipping might be $2,000 a load instead of $1,500 a load, $1,500 a load, but you know, it's worth it for a full truckload of product. And thankfully, the community's been generous and has helped us cover those costs. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Miller.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And my question is just whether you feel that the increase from 47 to 58 million pounds of food per year was a temporary thing because of COVID-19, and that it'll settle back somewhat, or do you think that this is permanent and that the demand is going to keep increasing from this number?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the demand will come down slightly. And, you know, I will tell you that in terms of number of clients served, when we compare March and April of 2021 to March and April of 2020 to 2019, right? I mean, when the pandemic first hit in March of 2020, the demand just skyrocketed. When we look back and we compare year to year to this year, the numbers are down, thank God, some from last March and April, but they are still higher than they were in 2019. And I suspect that will continue to be the case. Could be for a couple of years. You know, again, you know, some of the good news is that the additional unemployment benefits and also those stimulus checks have had a huge impact. You know, we can see what happens in the muni lot every time a stimulus check goes out. But I suspect stimulus checks may be coming to an end. Extra unemployment is coming to an end. SNAP, which was provided to clients receiving SNAP in the state of Ohio because of our emergency order, is going to end this summer. And so, you know, we need to be really thoughtful about that and see the impact on the clients we serve. Now, at the same time, there are some good things happening. You know, there are family tax credits that will be going out. There is summertime SNAP. So, it's going to be interesting to see what the impact is there. But again, you know, we're planning for a 3 to 5 year COVID response effort. In terms of the need for the new facility, you know, we are not simply building this because of the pandemic. These plans were in place back in 2018 before we ever imagined a pandemic could happen and could increase the need in the way that it has. We know that back then, we were serving more than 300,000 clients a year, but there were 575,000 people in our service area who were income eligible. So that was a pre-pandemic gap. the number of people eligible have only grown because of the pandemic.
Okay, thanks for the update.
You're welcome. Thanks for your question and all your support.
You're welcome.
Madam Chairwoman.
Councilwoman Stevens.
Well, as you all know, the food bank is in my district, and while they have tremendous need, I feel truly blessed that they are in my district. Their CEO and I have formed a partnership. We are allies. We both recognize the need that they serve in our community and the role model they serve for people to take action when there's a time of need. And so in any way that we can help them as they do their future endeavors, I will continue to encourage my colleagues. There was a chart that showed that not a single district, I repeat one more time, not a single district is exempt from that need. All 11 of us have constituents who need an entity like the food bank at some time. No matter how wealthy we think we are, and those of us who have poorer people, because I'm blessed with one of those districts that hits both extremes, with Brattonall as one of the 6th wealthiest communities in Ohio and East Cleveland as the poorest. I see the complete extremes, not to mention the belt of Cleveland Heights that is hidden wealth. So what this is not an ask today, but it is informative in that there will be an ask sooner or later. And I'm asking my colleagues that are here in this conference, this Zoom meeting today, to remember that if we don't take care of people who have major needs at some time or the other, we will continue to have horrible problems in all of our districts. So I love this presentation. I had a preview of it, and I hope that we will make sure that the balance of our colleagues who are not in Health and Human Services today understand the importance of keeping the food bank strong in our marketplace. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you for those words.
A brief comment.
Councilman Sweeney, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First and foremost, thanks for putting this together. Very informative. And to Kristen, the slide that's up just is in the district I have the privilege of representing, I'm number 2. And it's kind of mind blowing, but also disheartening at the same time. And it just shows how much need is out there. And with Councilwoman Stevens saying we all need to understand the impact that you bring to people's quality of life that are kind of hurting is astounding, to say the least. And I'm here to help any way I can. So from my previous world, I had a relationship, but this new responsibility that I have, it's more increased now. So thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for letting me share those thoughts, and I'll do my part. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Any other further questions from my colleagues?
No.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Christian, for your all that you and your team do throughout all year long as well, and especially during the pandemic. You know, when it all hit us, we weren't thinking about the various entities. We all had our own little silos and things that we needed to take care of, but you guys were a rock, and you held it together. So I want to personally thank you for all that you and your team did during that time.
Well, thank you, Councilwoman. We are proud and privileged to be essential workers, to have been open every day during this pandemic, to make sure that food continued to be available. And we also are so grateful for your past support and your future support. You know, Councilwoman Stevens, thank you for your partnership. Thanks for rolling up your sleeves and volunteering with us. And thanks to everyone else on this committee. You've all been really wonderful supporters and partners. And we certainly could not do it without you. So we appreciate your time today and your support.
All right. Thank you. If there's no, Madam Clerk, I would like to ask, is there there any miscellaneous business from any of my colleagues that they'd like to share? All right, hearing none. And once again, thank you, Christian, for your time and attention today. And we look forward to coming out real soon for another tour.
Wonderful. We'd love that.
Thanks.
Anytime.
All right. If there's nothing else holding our time and attention to this meeting